What does it even mean to live a legacy? Often we think of legacy in terms of what people might think of us when we're dead, but then we're dead. We're going to instead explore a living legacy. This is your host, Danielle Strickland. This is the Right Side Up podcast. And this is a partnership venture with World Vision, Strong Women, Strong World. This is going to be challenging and inspiring as we interview people from all over the world in all kinds of different sectors, living a life now that will matter later. A living legacy. Buckle up. This is sure to be challenging and inspiring. And I'm glad you're here. Cari Higgins is a 23-time USA cycling national champion and known in the cycling world as a fierce competitor. She's traveled the world representing the USA from 2006 to 2016, multiple World Cup and Pan American medals. She's part of the USA Olympic long team leading up to the London Olympics. And now Cari is the chairwoman of the USA Cycling Board of Directors, the first female and athlete. Now she lives in Boulder. Her full-time career has transitioned into real estate sales, but she's also been involved in this inception of Break the Cycle in Aspen. And her vision is the impact Break the Cycle has on actual lives in villages in rural Zambia was transformed when she toured some of the beneficiaries. She's been a partner with World Vision. She's with us to talk about playing with legacy. And the idea, I think, when I think of play and when Cari thinks of play, they might be different. But to actually find something that you love and take the things that you learned in being excellent at what it is that you love and applying those to living well and for others. These are some of the things that this Olympic legacy training is going to teach us. So enjoy. This is Cari Higgins. She's a remarkable human. You're going to love her. She's super down to earth for being someone who's so accomplished and amazing and still deeply involved in using her passion to unlock potential for others. This is Living Our Legacy with Cari Higgins. So, Cari Higgins, welcome to the Right Side Up podcast and Living a Legacy season. We're really glad that you're here and so glad to know you. I've already introduced you, but 23 national championship. You're a star. This cycling, it's incredible. And also the first female head chairperson of the USA Cycling Board. That's phenomenal as well. So you're just breaking records and ceilings, and I just feel like you have this history of breaking stuff.
Well, I appreciate that. We definitely are going to dig into this more, and it's how people introduce me. And I do feel like I've had a wonderful career, both in sport and both professionally, but it's definitely not all that's there. So yes, there's a history of being successful in sport. And yes, I've done some really cool things and broken some glass ceilings, and I'm really proud of that. But there's so much more that's there that I hope is more important in the end. So
yeah, and I would imagine they're connected, though. I'd imagine that your career, as an athlete, and then also your career as a business person connects somehow to what you're passionate about and and what your life story is and how you live.
Yeah. It definitely is. And I feel like how it's connected and what I'm passionate about are actually more connected. And that is because I believe, for me, in my growing up, how I became the 47-year-old I am now, how I got to this point in my life is related to sport. And sport gave me such confidence. It gave me such a platform to fail. And that is so important. Platform to fail, get back up, try it again. There is no one sport that you are going to win everything you do. And you're not going to be perfect. And you're going to learn how to be focused on improvement. You're going to learn how to present yourself to when you're trying to find a new professional team, or even when I was in high school, getting a college scholarship, I had to be interviewed basically by coaches at these tournaments. So sport taught me so much that has continued to give back. And so I'm real passionate about finding for young women, specifically in my world, is for young women to find something that they learn life skills. I love it when it's sport. That's easy for me to relate to. It's easy for me to talk about, but it doesn't have to be sport. It could be drama. It could be debate club. It could be a young girl starting a pet sitting business. I mean, there's just so many ways of which I really believe that young women, and that's my passion, learn life skills, learn confidence, and that when they get to be 47 years old, can give back to the next generation. So yeah, it is all connected. I think it's not because, oh, I was successful in sports, which means I'm successful in business. It's not linear like that, but it's the lessons I've learned in life through sport, and mainly learning how to fail and get back up with a little more bravado. And just going after what I want. I mean, it's just like, where along the line did the generations before me learn that they can't go after what they want? I just look at it and I'm like, oh, I feel so bad for them. Like my mom, like she was an amazing woman, had a great career in the end, but like somewhere along the line when she was 20 years old, she wasn't taught to go after what she wants. She was taught to go after what she was told, like what society wanted her to go after. And my generation, and I definitely know the younger ones, are hearing a different story, and I love it.
Did you hear that from your mom? Like, do you think your mom was like, I am not going to let you sort of slide into what I sort of was held back, or this sense of responsibility in other ways, or like basic society going like, you can't do that if you're female? Like, did you sense some encouragement from your mom in that way?
I definitely sense encouragement, 100%. My mom is not a rebel. I am not either. But I don't feel like my mom set out when she had a daughter in 1976 and was like, I'm going to teach this girl how to take over the world. That's not who she is. She's so much more gentle than that. But what she did do is realize that she had a daughter who had some energy and never held me back. I wanted to play in a boys' baseball team. Have at it, play in a boys' baseball team, you know? So my mom's never said you can't do that. So I don't think she set out to say, I'm going to raise a daughter who can be a chairwoman of a board. That wasn't her goal, but by her supporting and encouraging and never saying that you can't do that, why would you think you could do that? That was never in her vocabulary. So I think that's what it produced.
I heard in a couple interviews that you've given that you were always athletic. And it sounds like that even from a young age, that you just were always wanting to be actively involved. Does that run in your family, or was that like a thing that just was natural for you? How did that happen?
Yeah, it totally runs in the family. I mean, my mom is super athletic. My dad is super athletic. They're both so competitive, even like with each other when we were younger. So, I mean, my husband laughs at our family because, I mean, even with before my grandmother passed away, was 92, and we would sit around and have competitions who could get the lowest blood pressure with her blood pressure cuff. You know, it's like everything's a competition. So it's like, definitely it was a genetic factor. I don't want to say flaw, but a genetic factor that I came into this earth with. And, and I'm glad that I was in an environment, both where I grew up outside of Atlanta, that was primed for girls in sports in the 80s. I mean, that was a kind of a newish thing. And it continued with Title IX, allowing me to have the opportunity for a Division I soccer scholarship. I mean, that didn't happen in the generations before. So I feel like, yes, that was my personality. Yes, I was good at sports. Yes, I still love sports to this day. I mean, I don't watch anything on Netflix except sports stories. You ask about any Vander, who I don't even know the names of some of these Netflix series, or even if they're on Netflix. But if you tell me about the series on Netflix about the golfers, about the tennis players, about the cyclists, about the F1 drivers, I've watched them all, and that's what I binge. So it's part of who I am, for sure.
I love how you shared right from the get-go, like one of the big things sports offered you was a platform to fail. And this reminds me of a documentary I watched about the greats. I don't know if you saw that, but the great sport legends is sort of what made them great. And one of the components, I remember watching Wayne Gretzky. So I'm a Canadian, so Wayne Gretzky was a big deal when I was a kid. And I remember him saying, I played a lot. Like,
Yeah.
there were no like formulas then. It was just creative play. And then he became this player that creative
Yeah.
play was his specialty. You know, like he could make something
Yeah.
happen out of nothing because he spent all of his time creatively playing. And how he sort of laments when we make it all so hard and
Totally.
formulaic, we miss that like element of creative play. So what would you say about that? And how would you think that relates to even philanthropy, like how, you
Yeah.
know, these big, hard issues in the world that we tend to just really like program to death. What would you say around
Yeah.
play in that regard?
Totally. I mean, it's somewhat true, right? Like, let's just let the kids go outside and kick the soccer ball against the garage or play tennis against the garage and see if they enjoy it. Like, why do we have to put them in a program where they're like 8 hours a week when they're 9 years old? You know, I feel like our society's lost that. Like, I mean, you know, some people would say it was crazy, but when I was a kid, I played like year round, like 4 different sports, like every day of the week. But I was also I was also the kid who was like in the neighborhood riding bikes up the hills and running around and, you know, and again, kicking the soccer ball against the garage. Like it wasn't, now the kids are like at 8 years old, it's like, you better pick a sport and we're going to have you in morning training and, you know,
Right.
4 days a week. And like you said, like it's a formula. And to like, I don't know. I don't think we do. I personally don't, in the sport world, I personally don't think we produce the best athletes that way. I definitely don't think we produce well-rounded humans in that way. You know, like I think at the end of the day, the chance that somebody's going to make sport a career is so few and far between. You know, it just doesn't happen. So like, let's create good humans. And like by creating good humans, like what I'm like play, like learn how to be social in the sport. Like, you know, you don't have to like, and if you're on a team sport, you want your whole team to do well. You're not trying to beat that other person on your team. You're lifting them up while you, and so there's the segue into I can't even speaking, to giving back. It's like, let's lift each other up. And for me, I love team sports. As it turns out, I was pretty good at like, and cycling can be a team sport, but I was pretty good at individual sports too in the cycling world. But I thrive in a team environment. And that's because I love lifting. I love like being lifted myself. It fulfills something I want too. But it's not fully selfish. I love lifting others up. Like, let's all rise together. And, you know, I don't know how that fits into your question exactly in terms of like, my attitude towards like, you know, playfulness and how that fits into my daily life now, or like my giving back now. But I do feel like the team sports aspect, and just like, I feel like that is what taught me to love that environment. And now, and for me in the work world now, like I wish every woman I worked with had played team sports. Like, and I can pick them out, the ones who have. Like, it's like I can just say, oh, that's my girl. We got that. We're on the same page. Like, and again, the whole learning how to fail thing, that's you know, that is a gift. And in the business world that I'm in now, there's failure every single day. I had a pep talk with myself last week. Like, not kidding you, on the drive home last week, I had 2 things that could have been deemed as failures that in one day. And that to me, I was like, oh my God, like I'm exhausted. That was a rough day. Why did that happen? And I had like a little pity party for like 30 seconds. And then I was like, okay, next. Like, there will be another opportunity. What did I learn from that? I learned X, Y, and Z, you know.
That's your
And get back up.
that's your training. Right. So like,
Yeah,
so you
that's
start
training.
just with this like beautiful like exploration, like we're going to play and we're going to see what we love before we get all. So I wonder about this, like when people think about development or really big projects or fighting global poverty, I feel like we expert people out in some ways.
Yeah.
And we also have a lot in this culture, I think, of shame around like if you don't do it right or you don't partner right or whatever, then you didn't do it right.
Right.
And I'm just like, just try it. Just try something, like join something,
Right.
give back some way, like begin to experiment and have some fun and realize that this is just a really fun way to live. Like this is a good for you. But then there comes a
Yeah.
moment where you shift from, okay, I love this and I love playing with this to like, okay, this is something I'm super good at and I need to do and I need to get coached at and I need to like, when was that moment for you? Like, and what was that like? Like, how did it shift from, hey, I just really like cycling and I seem to be pretty good at it to like, oh, wow, I've got to do some work here.
Yeah, I think I've told the story before. So if anyone listens to this who's heard me tell the story, I'm sorry, but it really it at the heart of it, this is how it happened, and so it might bore some of you that know me well, but I in cycling in professional athletics in general is extremely selfish. I mean, it just is. Like that's how if you're going to be the top 1% of any sport or any career, if you're the top 1% of NASA scientists, you're a pretty self-centered person. You have to be at that level. And doesn't mean that that's what you enjoy. I did not enjoy being self-centered. It did not fulfill me in the heart of hearts. So, you wake up every day and you're like, what am I going to eat? Oh, I don't want to do this workout. Like, okay, I'm going to do it, but now I'm tired and now I need to put my legs up and I can't go to the grocery store because my coach told me no more walking for the day or, I mean, it's just like, it's just really every day is about you and about how you feel and how you're going to optimize your training and how you're going to optimize your recovery and how you're going to optimize your nutrition and you, me. So to me, like, I was like, doesn't feel right. It was hard. And then when you win in sport, which is natural, that you have failures and you have hard days, you're like, why am I doing all this? Like, why am I every day constantly thinking about this? And then I have a slap in the face that it's like, seems like it's not going the way I want it. And so I was staying with this woman. She had just traveled to Africa with a program called Golf for Africa. I was renting a room from her in Manhattan Beach. And because we were training all winter in the Southern California area. And she said, oh my gosh, you have to see what I did, blah, blah, blah. You would love this. You would want to get involved. And I was like, Golf for Africa. So I started looking at it and I was like, this is so cool. Why is there not like, why can't we do like cycling for Africa? Like, why is it golf? I don't know anything about golf, And she's like, you should do something. And she was like all she needed to do was like poke the bear. All of a sudden she poked my inner bear and I was like, okay, what are we doing? How can I do this? Like, in other words, I wanted to use cycling. I just wanted to change my frame of mind in that it's not about me. We can use cycling for somebody else to give back, like to create something good. And that was the playfulness. So to your whole point, that was why not try this? Like, we can try something small. It might not work, but like there's something in here. There's something in here that's feeling good and feels like it has potential. And so there was this playfulness about it. I did a little video. I sent it to this woman who works for World Vision. And I was like, hi. Like literally this. I wish I would have saved the video. Hi, my name is Cari. I'm staying here with my friend Lori, and she told me about Golf for Africa. That sounds so cool. Let's do a bike ride. Let's raise money through a bike ride. And of course, the woman who I talked to, if anyone knows her, Catherine Compton, she was like hook, line, and sinker. Like that's all she needed to hear from me. She didn't know me. She was like, we're in, you're hired, we're doing and hired. Hired to volunteer a lot of hours. But and we've gone through all these iterations. So, now we're 14, 15 years into a bike ride, and we've expanded, we've tried things, we've seen ways that it didn't work successfully to raise money. At the end of it, the lesson for me was find a reason that you can use what you're doing in cycling and in sport that's not about benefiting you. And it's been a fun journey. It's been an amazing journey. And it's not only led down the path of like raising a bunch of money for water in Zambia, for wells in Zambia. That's definitely the overriding goal. But I feel like it's also been beneficial for me in like, not in a selfish way, but like I've met such amazing people. I've made such deep connections with people in this path, in this journey that I've been down. And that's part of the playfulness. I don't know where that's going to lead me. I don't know what this is going to be in 10 years. But what I do know is I love the feeling of helping people and not my money, my time, my energy doesn't just go to improving my life.
I mean, just also the intuitiveness at that moment and the realization that this way of living is exhausting and not
Yeah.
life-giving. That idea, because I think everybody basically believes a myth, and maybe this is because there's so few, 1%, but everyone believes this
Yeah.
myth that if you get to that excellent, mountain, that you'll be fully satisfied. So even just
Totally.
that, to say like, no, I've been to that 1% land, and it's
Yeah.
exhausting, and it can suck the life out of you instead of give you life.
Yes.
But then,
Totally. You've hit it. That's exactly it.
yeah, but then not give up what you love, but actually, so
Yeah.
this twist is not to, because I think the other option is just to walk away and say like, all is meaningless, but
Yeah.
to actually see this passion and this gift and this, this excellence as a tool, as a catalyst, as a way of giving back. That's an amazing gift to offer people as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said it at the beginning when you said, oh, 23 national time champion, it's like, to me that like all of that is like, it's not pointless. It's the platform of which people will recognize and say, oh, that's an interesting story. I should that's maybe something I want to listen to. But to me, it's like that isn't even the point of all of it, which is like what I said. It's like, it's so much deeper than that. I hope that's not how I'm remembered. I mean, that's cool. That's how I open the door for people to say, oh, she knows a little something about cycling. Like, oh, I want to ride bikes with her or whatever. It opens doors, but it's definitely not who I am, And so I feel like it's kind of sad in sport when people define themselves by accomplishment only in sport. Like, gosh, you have a platform. Like, find out what else in the world you want that platform to announce.
As you're listening to this interview, I hope you're being inspired and challenged by someone who is playing with legacy, with excellence. And this gives you just one more glimpse into the incredible network and movement of strong women, strong world that is doing such beautiful work. And so I'd love to direct you to strongwomenstrongworld.com. Just put that in and you could read more about many of the initiatives that they champion within World Vision, the way that they're really identifying a catalytic way of making a difference for generations right now. And you could get involved. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you can get involved, but check them out because I think you'll be equally inspired and maybe you want to be part of the change that the world desperately needs right now. So strongwomenstrongworld.com, check them out, and let's continue to listen and learn together. I wonder too, though, because I think when I hear someone's been an Olympian or, done these incredible things, what I understand by that is that you've learned some principles and lived some things that have made you strong.
Yeah.
So, and again, I think you said like, I learned how to fail and then get back up. That's
Yeah.
perseverance, right? Like, and that's not easily
Yeah.
learned. There's no other way to learn that but by failing and getting back up. And if you don't have a place where you can do that and celebrate it, like this is what this is, like we're in sport, you're like, okay, you had a bad race. Now what's here to learn and let's go to the next one. So what would you've told me that one. What are some of the other things that you learned during that season that you've now applied to your work with World Vision and your work that you do now?
Yeah, I think the one thing I've learned, and maybe this is like the middle age in me, is that that 1% of athlete, that successful CEO of whatever business, the person who's creating an avenue for lots of giving and raises tons of money for anything, that it all takes a community. I think everyone in life has an opportunity to build their own community. Someone said it to me this week, and I loved it, and I'm going to do it. I'm so excited about this. They said, I have my own personal board of directors. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? Like, she said, for 6 years, I've been meeting with the same group of women. It happened to be women in this case. And it's a life check. It's my own personal board of directors who's going to keep me, in line with what I say my aspirations are, who I want to be. And when I make big decisions, my board of directors is part of that decision making. And so I feel like what I've learned in sport, I feel like what I've learned about, trying and failing in different ways of giving back and in creating this this awesome nonprofit that we've created for water in Zambia, even in business. And I didn't even know it when I was doing it earlier, but I created my own community. I hand-selected my support team. And it's me giving back to them too. But I think if we try to go in life and we try to do this all ourselves, whether it's business or sport, that's a lonely existence. And failure is lonely. Success is lonely, But if you have created your own board of directors or your own community, your own support system, I think it's essential. And I think that I'm lucky enough that the chair of my personal board, if I'm going to put it that way, is a husband who's been like, kind of like my mom growing up. My husband's been like, no stopping you, whatever you want to do. I'm on your team. Like, you want to go to the Olympics? Let's go. Do you want to start a nonprofit bike ride that we're going to put thousands of personal hours into and raise money? Let's go. And at one point, a couple of years ago, I was like, I can't do it all anymore. Like, I'm overwhelmed. Life stress is up to here. Got to start cutting some things out. Maybe we need to pull back on what we're doing on our volunteer work. And he was like, no. That's not what you said you want in life. And he was like, pushed me in the back and said, that's not what you give up. That's not who you are. And I was like, okay. So to answer your question in a really long-winded way is like, you got to have that support system, that community, that board of directors.
I love that idea of your life is team. Your life is a team sport.
Oh, yeah.
And depending on what team you're on, also the thing I love is that you're creating that team. I love that the responsibilities. Yeah. So many people will say like, well, I don't have anybody. And then I think it's a matter of saying, well, probably you do, because life is a team sport, but also getting really, really intentional about who do you want on your team. And
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
People who are going to support you and push you.
Right. Yes.
So, I don't think anyone should go around this life without a team. Just to monitor, just to check in with, just to, to be really humble and vulnerable with when you need help, when you need some guidance. Like I said a couple of years ago, I told I can't. It's like there's too much going on. There's too much stress. This is, and it was COVID and real estate and it was bonkers. And he said, no. You've told me who you are. You've told me what you want in life. So what you're telling me you want to back off on and what you want to quit is not who you are. So yeah, create that support system.
I think that also, Cari, is probably something you learned that maybe is just so intuitive to you that you don't realize, but like you told me who you are. Like you told me what you wanted. So even that, aim, you got, so much practice and like, this is the like, this is what I want to do, or this is what I want to accomplish, or this is how we're going to get there. So even that idea of like, and then your husband can go, well, you told me this, so I know it's not him pushing you, it's him pushing you towards what you want to be and who you want to be. Any ideas on that? Like just getting really specific about what you're aiming for.
Yeah, and I hate to always use the metaphor for sports, but it is who I am, like how I've learned in life. But I kind of think of I think about how in life, like how I set goals and what they were. And I break it down into decades, right? Like when you're a teenager, like goals are pretty simple. And at that time it was me. I was like, I want to play Division I soccer. I want a soccer scholarship, And so you kind of aim everything towards that, right? In my 20s, I think 20s is an interesting decade. Whenever I meet a gem of a human who's 28 and they've got it all figured out, I'm like, high fives to you, girlfriend, because That is a decade where most people do not have goals pinpoint. You know, they might say, I want to move to California, which is a great goal. I want to, you know, buy my own car in cash or whatever. But in like 20s, you're just kind of like floating along.
Yeah, you're kind of, it's your play,
Like
it's your play decade in a way, isn't it?
play
You don't
decade.
quite know what you
But
want to do. Yeah.
right.
Uh-huh.
But when I got real serious about cycling in my 30s, that is when I started setting goals. Like, time is limited when you're a professional athlete. So you only have so much time. You're like, well, at some point you're going to age out or whatever. Like, you know, bodies don't function the same when you're 47 as they do when you're 32. They just don't. And so it's like, let's get serious about setting goals. And, you know, and then, so I think I've carried that into my business and personal life, in that I'm really goal oriented. And I also have to tell people what my goals are. Because what's a goal if there's no one to keep you accountable, including yourself? If you're not keeping if you can't even say it out loud, that's step one of like not having any accountability. So that is something that I am real focused on, is like personal goals. I've got personal goals. I'll tell everyone right now, my personal goal is in year 2025, has nothing to do with professional goal or anything else. But in the year 2025, my husband and I will have been together, married for 20 years, together for like, I don't know, a long time, 27 years or something. And I want to go live in another country for 2 months. But it's something that I have to start now. Like, you have to verbalize that goal, because there's things that happen. You just can't pick up on a whim on March 30th of 2025 and make that happen. So yeah, I think that because of sport, I'm used to setting goals. There's attainable goals, there's long-term goals, there, you know, and I've used that both in my professional and personal world now, and in what I want to do in like my living legacy, and what is my goal there. There's are goals that I've written down. There's goals that I discuss with my team of people. So yeah.
That's really cool. What do you do? I mean, one of the things that's amazing is Break the Cycle, which is this org that you've set up that is partnering with World Vision and Zambia and water projects. And you even mentioned during some difficult times it getting difficult to motivate yourself to stay engaged. What is your best advice in life for people who struggle to keep at it? Like, who are just discouraged, or maybe they feel like they don't have it in the tank, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
What is your best? What do they do? What do you do if you're, and even someone
Yeah.
who's listening to this who's just like, yeah, I used to be really driven and I used to have goals, and now I'm just like, I just don't have it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one thing I've learned, in working with a sports psychologist leading up to, I think the 2012 Olympics, has really, really helped me in life, is accepting that it is hard, that you can lose motivation. Accepting that so you can understand it. If you fight it, if you've lacked motivation in your personal world, or in your, you know, in maybe like I explained like a handful of years ago, like I was maybe pushing back on, like, I'm giving out too much of my time. I need, but accepting that, like, it's okay. It's hard. You're going to go through highs and lows in life and all aspects of life. And the sports psychologist told me, this was my task with her, is like, okay, acknowledge that it hurts. There was a point in, I'm not going to get into the sports thing, but like, there was a point in every one of these races that I was hitting this moment where I'm like, I can't, I'm done. Like, and you're like, wait, whoa. So she said, acknowledge that it hurts. Make yourself feel that hurt when you're not racing. So that when it does hurt, that you're like, oh, this is exactly where I should be. It's not a surprise. Like, because if you're shocked by the overwhelming feelings, by the anxiety, by the stress, if that catches you off guard, then you don't know how to handle it. Yet, and I'll use my career now. I know that my business, my annual business is very cyclical in terms of stress load. So when it gets to be March 1st, having the overwhelming feeling that I can't handle it, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm working 14 hours a day, I haven't exercised, it's to say, no, this is normal. This is how it works in March. And here's your strategies to cope with that. But it not being a shock, because I think when people don't understand that feeling is coming, or that anxiety or that grief or the stress shocks them, and they don't know how to handle it. And so I look at it like that. I know that's coming. I know the anxiety is coming. So what are my techniques? So now how am I going to handle it? Okay, cool. You know what the awesome news is that it's March 1st and I'm so overwhelmed and stressed out. You know why that's good? That means my business is normal. That means my business is good. And so therefore, let's revert to the things I wrote down that are my techniques in handling the stress. So that's how I do it. It's literally talking yourself off the ledge of saying, I can't do this. I wasn't like, I'm too stressed out. No. It's okay. Everyone's stressed out right now. You should be stressed out. Your business is awesome. Now let's handle the stress. Let's figure out what are the techniques. Is it delegating? Is it exercising every day? So, I think I learned that through sport, is just to understand and accept the hard times. It's okay. Everyone hurts. Everyone has grief. Everyone has anxiety.
Yeah, I love that. And that actually, one of the things that you said that really struck me is like, you're basically normalizing what you're feeling, because this is how you're supposed to feel. So like in sport, in your level of sport, when you push your body like this is how your body feels. It's designed to feel this way. So of course you feel like quitting. Everything in your body is designed to say, stop this right now, because you're driving past what you're supposed to be at. And the same within business and stuff. So instead, I love that, like, instead of denying it, no, I feel fine, when you don't feel fine, which could potentially lead to disaster, is to actually acknowledge it and then work on those techniques to confront it when it comes,
Yeah. And it's like in life, they say like, you don't know the good times until you have the bad, and it's kind of the same thing in business. Like in my business, at least, it's like today, as a matter of fact, like 10 minutes before I got on the call with you, I got to ride my bike outside. And I know that is a gift. Like I was the luckiest person. And I rode with my husband and another friend, and my friend looked at, and he's in the same business I am, and he's as busy as I am. And he looked at me, he goes, we are the luckiest person the luckiest people in the whole world. And I was like, I know, aren't we? It's Thursday. We're riding our bike outside. This is amazing. And so I think it's understanding the hard times and accepting that, so you can also appreciate the really awesome times.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I did notice in some of your Instagram posts that you are cycling in some pretty hilly places these days. That's fair? Is that a bit different from racing? And
oh yeah,
are your quads okay? Are you gonna be okay?
Depends on who I ride with. If I ride with people slower than me, I'm the best person out there. If I ride with some of my friends who are still professional cyclists, then I am not okay. Please help. Send the help, 911. No, I do. I live in Boulder, Colorado. It's a beautiful area of the country. I still feel so lucky for loving riding my bike. I mean, so many people walk away from sport and just never pick up their bike again, or their golf clubs, or their tennis racket. And I just am so blessed that I still love riding my bike. I don't play soccer anymore, but
I wonder how connected that is to you understanding the cycling is not only something you love, but something that can be leveraged for others. Like, I wonder how much of that love actually was fostered by that decision. Because that's an interesting thing, that people could get to the top of their game and then just walk away. Like, just be like, I never want to do that again. So that's but you're the opposite. I wonder if it's connected to this bigger picture.
I think it is. And I think I'm lucky in that way. I mean, I've created that luck, but I am lucky in that way. And I think it goes back to that original decision, which is, the sport is not about me. Like, this is a selfish time of my life. I better find another reason I like this sport. I had an email from an athlete a couple weeks ago and said, we have this like internal board, if you will, for athletes in USA Cycling. And she said, I'm retiring and I want to give up my position. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, why? Why not dig your heels in this position at this point? If you're retiring, you're gonna have more time. Don't you find it? Don't you want to make the sport better? Like, if you stay in this position, like, we can use you, but that's just not how everyone feels. And I hope for that person, and I hope that if that's the case, that they have something else they're super passionate about. There's no judgment, but it is kind of like in my world, find something you're passionate about, and like, why wouldn't you want to give it back and make it better?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Any advice, or what would you say something to your 14-year-old self that's, athletic and thinking about the world? Would you have some advice for her, or would you have some advice for people who are listening and wanting to wonder how can they find what they're passionate about and then use it for the sake of others?
Yeah. That's a great question. I'm going to pause on that one. Gosh, I have so much advice for my 14-year-old self. Don't we all when we're in our mid-40s? I think I would tell my 14-year-old self to not think my mom was uncool, because she was the most supportive. And I say that because it is my mom that was like, go tackle whatever you want to tackle, and so never held me back. And so I think I would be a little nicer and more accepting in these teenage ways that teenagers aren't exactly to their parents. So that's not a life lesson, but just in general, that's what I would tell my 14-year-old self. I think in talking to anyone about what they're passionate about, how do they give back? How do they make that worth something, rather than, just going through life on a day-to-day basis? I just kind of feel like, for me, and I don't think about this daily, but it does inspire me. What is it that I'm passionate about? I'm passionate about humans. And some people are passionate about outer space, and some people are passionate about electronics, and some people, everyone has their thing. I just love humans. And so I say, like, find a way that, and you could make mistakes. You could play around. I loved your idea of like the playfulness. But what is it? How do you want to be remembered? How do you want your friends to introduce you? Like, if in their head they're introducing you to a fictitious person, how do they introduce you? Because that's how they really feel, right? And so, I don't think there's a wrong way to go about that. I don't think there's a wrong way to give back. But just like I'd say, I think to wrap it up, it might take a couple failures. It might take you feeling defeated. Like, that wasn't how I wanted to give back, or I didn't like the way that nonprofit felt, or whatever it is. Like, but I feel like just try something, and don't be afraid to fail, and then try again. I think it's not a one and done in creating your own legacy.
I love that so much. Thank you, Cari, for living such a beautiful life and for sharing some of that with us today. And Godspeed. Break the cycle. All the links where you can get involved and maybe learn a little bit more will be in the show notes. So dive in and give it a go. And also, if you failed recently or you're discouraged, get back up. Get in the game. We need you.
Go.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
for
it. This. I really appreciate you.
Hey, speaking of empowering women, the voices of women are often silenced, or unwanted, or unsupported, or untrained. And we felt like it was time to stop that. So we started a thing called Women Speakers Collective. Women Speakers Collective is a global coaching community. So it's once a month, a coaching and a collective that you join. So you join with other women, but also you're coached in all things communication. And I would say even leadership, all things communication and leadership, because it's all around knowing who you are and learning about your own skills and then being able to partner and network and collaborate and then using your voice effectively for change and in the sphere that you're called to. People in business take this, people who are preaching, who are on stages, who are doing public presentations, nonprofit leaders. We've had a mayor. We often offer these things called boot camps. Those are 2 days, like jam-packed communication training. So if that's your style, you could look for one of those coming soon. If you need an ongoing support, then the coaching community is for you. All the things. I mean, there's so many things I can't even begin to explain it, but it's an incredible global community of females raising their voice and trying to be the change they want to see in the world and liberating other women in the process. So you're going to want to check that out at womenspeakerscollective.com.